Hello, and when I say that I'm an all-round angler, I really mean it. I'm just casting out into an overgrown brook. I'm after sticklebacks, and immediately as soon as the bait hits the deck, I've got some interested fish. If you are following my adventures, then this is a place that I have been on quite recently, and I've caught, I think I had five sticklebacks, which when you look at the place that I'm actually on, I'll tell you what, that is an achievement. Right, the bait's in again, just waiting for the fish to move in, as they are straight away. Lots of small ones. They're not much bigger than the maggot, if I'm honest. But then, of course, a few bigger fish as well. Everything's relative. We are talking sticklebacks. I've been catching 3 spined sticklebacks from this venue. In the UK, we have 3, 9 and 15, with the latter being a saltwater fish. Anyway, I'm looking forward to getting the first one on the bank today. And this is what I came for. Fantastic looking fish, isn't it? He wants to go back, and that's where I'm going to put it right now. What I actually did to catch that stickleback, you can see the maggot there. It's on a size 18 hook, and I've got a small shot just to give me some casting weight, or rather flicking weight, into the brook itself. But prior to the capture of the fish, they were playing with the maggot and not taking it. So what I did was, I know it sounds barbaric, but I cut the maggot in half, not only to reduce the size, but also to release the fluids. And it worked. First cast, I caught that 3-spined stickleback. My final cast into this particular spot. There may be small fish, and certainly not targeted as other species are, but I tell you what, they do spook after a while. As you can see, all these branches around me, it's very, very overgrown as well. I'm getting a few small fish around the maggot, but that's all. They're not even taking it now. So I think it's time to move on. Second fish there, another fantastic looking stickleback. I'm on a very shallow brook. It's way upstream, quite close to the source, and for most of it in this area I can walk along it or across it without even getting wet. Just the soles of my boots would be wet as a result of doing so. However, there are bends, and that's where you find the relatively deeper water. The water, of course, that will hold the fish. It's not rocket science, it's watercraft. And whether you're fishing for big carp on a huge gravel pit, or like I am today, tiny sticklebacks on an overgrown brook, it's all the same principles that come together that help you to not only locate the fish, but then to catch them. Watercraft is a combination of not just years of being an angler, but years of experience that you've taken information on board, you've churned it, you've digested it, and then you translate it into practicality. so that when you come to a place like this, you know where to fish. When you walk the River Severn at Hampton Road for the first time, you know where to fish because of the years of experience, but not just fishing for years, because that in itself doesn't bring watercraft, just like being old doesn't make you wise necessarily. It's the fact that you've taken the information, you've learned from experiences over the years, and you've made yourself a better person, or in this case, a more successful angler. Anyway, I'm going to give this particular spot a few more casts and see if I can bank another of my target species for today. Fish number 3. The water is very clear, it's a sandy bottom and of course extremely shallow. At first glance you don't see anything, and then if you sit there for a while patiently, you notice the odd fish darting from one place to another. But when you put the bait in, although it falls onto a sandy bottom and you can't see anything, even when you can't see the fish, you then notice that the maggot starts to move. And then you'll sometimes see the side of the stickleback where it twists and turns, and then you'll see a small group develop. They're extremely well camouflaged, and of course they need to be in a situation like this because it's shallow and they are open to predators. I've even seen kingfishers on tiny little brooks like this, so they know that to survive they have to stay one step ahead. Time to move on from here. I can get so focused sometimes that I forget that I've got a bramble on my back and I'm sitting in a bed of nettles. I'll tell you what though, this is fantastic fishing. I love that. That's the buzzword today, the key word for this session. Fantastic. Another potential spot here. I can't really use the term swim or peg. I've dropped the bait in though, and it doesn't have the encouraging signs of the small sticklebacks rushing in initially. But I can see a few darting on the far bank, which is just a small stream, of course, small brook, so we're talking the same area. I'm going to drop this in a few times. What I find with sticklebacks is that they are very responsive to movement. So when the maggot lies on the bed of the venue for some time, it tends to get left. But then if you just tweak it or pull it up and drop it back, it creates the interest again. Well, there are fish out there, but they're not taking too much notice of the maggot that I've got out there. I would say that most angling sessions present a challenge in one way or another. This one's obvious because of the nature of the brook. It's extremely overgrown, it's wild. I'm fishing with a tiny telescopic rod. You wouldn't be able to get a standard 12-foot rod in here at all. It wouldn't work. That would be impossible fishing. So you adapt to the circumstances. In addition, I'm traveling very, very light. I've got a small bag over my shoulder, just a few items of basic tackle. I've got the rod, the reel. I already made that up at home, nipped a small shot on, and then the hook, and of course the maggot when I arrive. So it's extremely light, don't need a landing net. I'm not going to catch anything that's going to require that. the challenge is first and foremost just getting to the water and finding a place where you can get a bait out. I've lost count in these last few sessions that I've done on these small brooks how many times I've had tangles, and I've had to set up again while I've been here, and that's just with a straight through line, although I am using a loop to loop with a 1 pound 6 ounce fluorocarbon hook length, so a lighter hook length, just a small shot nipped on, and I'm watching the bait. So even with that minimal approach, I'm still getting lots and lots of tangles as I just make my way around. And then I think it's worthwhile pointing out that you need to have a reasonable degree of a fit body, because there's lots of crouching down, and I can feel it on my knees. So if you do suffer from arthritis or a bad back, this really isn't the type of fishing that you could do and enjoy. I'm enjoying it. I'm certainly getting a lot from today's adventure along the brook. But as I've already done, I think it's time to move on again, and I'll perhaps have one last spot before I draw the session to a conclusion. And what was I just saying about tangles? The line got caught around some of the undergrowth, and this one looks like I might have to cut the line and start again. Look what I've just caught. It's a stickleback, but it's an absolute monster. That's a brilliant fish. Much bigger than the ones I've been catching from here so far. In fact, when I struck into it and lifted it out of the water initially, I thought it was something else, but it is a 3-spine stickleback. Fantastic specimen. That really was fantastic. While I'm fishing just now, it is very quiet. Nevertheless, there's always somebody walking somewhere, isn't there? And I was listening to a girl, perhaps a late teenager maybe, having a conversation with a dad. They weren't arguing, but they were having a difference of opinion. And she said, well, why can't I be a student? She says, because I want to drink and have fun with my life. And her dad is probably thinking the same thing as me. Student means study. It's about your future life and your future career. Anyway, let's cast out again and see if I can add another fish. But I'll tell you what, if I don't, that will be a fantastic one to end the session with. Not as big as the previous one, but nevertheless a decent fish to end with. It's a slippery customer. There it is. That's nice, isn't it? That's gone back, and that's where I'm going now myself, back home. This video will be part, as they all are indeed, part of a blog entry on my personal website. There's a comments option underneath each blog entry. Why not head across and drop a message? There's no option on YouTube, nothing sinister going on, purely and simply just a time management thing. But on the site, let's have a chat. Do you fish for sticklebacks? Have you caught a big one? Do you fish for minnows or the mini species in general? If you do, then you'll appreciate just how exciting it is to target places like I'm on today. Angling conversation is good. When it's positive and wholesome, it's good. So let's chat.